What's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's Kevin Forte. Today, we are going to be taking a look at Gavin Mckenna signing with the Penn State Nittany Lions. I already made a full video talking about his commitment to Penn State. We're going to discuss about the theory about what happens next. The thumbnail that you see before you clicked on this video, which thank you for watching, this was a thumbnail I created before he even announced his commitment to Penn State, because there is a lot of correlation here, and it's kind of lining up a certain way for the 2026 draft that, it seems to be tea leaves kind of aligning. So we'll see if it actually aligns. We'll discuss it here in today's video. And next summer, we could either look at it and say, oh my God, Kevin, you were spot on. Or I look like an idiot. I don't know what I'm talking about. Either way, we're going to talk about it now, and we're going to kind of do a fun video here. So Gavin Mckenna just committed to the Penn State Nittany Lions. And I remember going back to probably a year or two ago when Pittsburgh started falling off. They started losing that little bit of relevancy. Now they've missed the playoffs a couple of years. Now it kind of comes into that question, are they rebuilding? Are they going to start a rebuild? And then there's talk about Mckenna coming to the States, potentially playing in North America, potentially playing not in Canada, but playing in the States, in the Big Ten, Michigan, Michigan State. All those schools were in the discussion. And of course, Penn State, where he is ultimately committed. Now, when we knew that Pittsburgh was kind of starting to fall off, we had a feeling that they might fall in the draft, and they might start being one of those teams that instead of being just a playoff team, are they going to finally commit to a rebuild and potentially land one of the top players in the draft? And there is a weird correlation here, because this is not the first time the Penguins have been in the spotlight. Now, you remember not that long ago now, well, it seems like a long time ago now, but when Sidney Crosby was drafted by the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins did not have the best odds of getting Sidney Crosby in that draft. And just a few years before that, when the most recent generational talent at that point, Mario Lemieux, came to the NHL, the Penguins were also not the worst team in the NHL to get Mario Lemieux. They won the lottery in both of those scenarios, and especially the Crosby one, because in the Sidney Crosby draft, that was the year after Ovechkin, and it was also the lockout year. So there was no hockey going on in the NHL. So how do you determine, when you've missed an entire year of hockey in a lockout, how do you determine the order of picks? Well, everybody had a certain amount of chance of getting the first overall pick, and of course, who got that first overall pick? It was the Pittsburgh Penguins. And now, in 2026, just about 2 decades later, we are talking about Gavin Mckenna, who's playing 2 hours from Pittsburgh in Hockey Valley. And the Penguins, who don't seem to have much direction right now, might be primed to get the first overall pick. And who better than a kid that played all of this, what would be next year, all of last season in Penn State, Gavin Mckenna. It's definitely an interesting thought. Now, obviously, this is tinfoil hat theories. We could talk about this year's draft in 2025. At the Stadium Series game, they announced the Islanders would be hosting an All-Star Weekend in January of 2026, and that fell through. Because of the Olympics, there's just too much going on. Nobody has any hype around the Olympics. It hasn't been talked about. So I guess it was May of 2025 this year, we find out that the NHL All-Star Game on Long Island at UBS Arena has been canceled. And then less than 2 months later, the Islanders, with the 10th best odds of the first overall pick, with I want to say it was a 0.5% chance at the first overall pick, end up landing the first overall pick in Matthew Schaefer. It's definitely tinfoil hat theories there. Was that the NHL's way of kind of compromising the Islanders for losing their All-Star Weekend, giving them the first overall pick? It does. Those theories can be made because of just how loony and weird of a situation it ended up being. It is a possibility. We don't know. I can't tell you for certain that it was. I can't tell you for certain that it wasn't. But then now we get to this year where potentially Gavin Mckenna in this whole situation, I'm sure the Flyers and the Penguins are thinking to themselves, we would love to have this kid in our backyard. And he already made the elective choice to sign in the state of Pennsylvania. So obviously he likes the area. What if we were able to bring him into Pittsburgh or Philly, right? And when you consider who McKenna's going to be playing with, he's playing with Jackson Smith, who is currently I think he was the 14th selection from the Blue Jackets in this year's draft. He's already been selected. So Jackson Smith, who he'll be playing with at Penn State, is playing not that far in Columbus with the Blue Jackets in the next few years. So there is a lot of interesting things to consider here. And I think definitely more likely it would be Pittsburgh. I don't know what's going to happen with the Flyers this year. I think a lot of what happens with the Flyers depends on the goaltending. If their goaltending is going to be fixed, which I'm not really sure it was. So I'm not sure how good the Flyers are really going to be this year. And maybe they're in the mix for McKenna as well. But I think as of today, who would I be more confident in landing the first overall pick? Or maybe, let's put it this way, who's more likely to be lower in the standings at the end of this year and more likely to have a lottery pick to select Gavin McKenna? I think as of today, it's probably the Pittsburgh Penguins. So, I think it's a very interesting thought. And then I talked about this in the stadium series, in the Gavin McKenna committing to Penn State video. I mean, Penn State is doing a bunch of infrastructural changes on their football stadium. And that was one of the reasons why we have not seen a Winter Classic or Stadium Series game at Penn State. They just didn't have the infrastructure for outdoor events in November and December and January in that building. That building was not meant to host outdoor events in January. Well, with all the infrastructure changes they're making right now to that building, that is a possibility. And then you align it with him committing to Penn State the other day. He's going to be drafted next year. He could be drafted by the Flyers or the Penguins. And then how great would that be in 2028, 2029? Hey, the former first overall pick Gavin McKenna, the year before he was drafted in his draft year, played with the Penn State Nittany Lions. And we're going to have all these infrastructure changes to the Beaver Stadium. Let's have an outdoor game between the Philadelphia Flyers and the Pittsburgh Penguins, which former Penn State Nittany Lion and first overall pick Gavin McKenna, who's playing with either the Penguins or the Flyers, gets to host an outdoor game in his former stomping grounds. How great would that be? It really would be something. And it could happen. It really could happen. And you guys could be looking at this video laughing and saying, Kevin, it's not going to happen. Listen, the chances are small, but it is possible. And you know what? There are crazy things out there. There are crazier things that have happened in the NHL before. And I think this is a realistic thing. And maybe we look at this video in 2027, 2028, 2 or 3 years from now and say, holy cow, Kevin was right on the money with that. That's kind of insane. But we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait into the future, see what happens. But I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments down below. That kind of tinfoil hat fun theory game, what do you guys think of that? Would you be interested in that? I think it's definitely something that could be realistic as soon as next year if they do end up selecting him. And then who knows, that outdoor game could be coming in the next 3 years as well. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time.